Hello, my name is Reverend Thomas Coughlin. I was born deaf. My parents are deaf as well. My grandparents are also deaf. I was born in a small town in New York. I have 3 sisters who are hearing. 2 of them are interpreters. One of them is married to a deaf man. Growing up, I went to school in Rochester, New York. Every day I practiced finger spelling. I attended that school up until I was 12. One summer, my parents went to a summer camp for 2 weeks. It was a Catholic day camp. There were sisters there and they were chatting with them. One of the sisters mentioned to my parents about a Catholic school named St. Mary's in Rochester, New York. They suggested that I go there. They said that it would be a good school for me, a good Catholic school. It would be a good environment. It was religious. My parents thought about it and decided that I should go there. So at the age of 12, I attended and went for about 8 or 9 years. The environment was very different. In that school, I learned about many different religious aspects. One day, one of the sisters had said that the very important part of life is prayer. Around the age of 16, I became more interested in religious life. So one of the sisters had given me a book. Thinking about the book's name. I read the book. It was about a man who became a Catholic priest. He was in the community for about 30 or 40 years before he died. The book was about his life, so I read it. It was very interesting. It gave me the idea to possibly become a Catholic priest. I asked the nuns for more books about the religious life. I was hooked on the idea on becoming a priest. And then around 19, I was a senior in high school. I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. Do I go to college? What do I do? So I thought about it. So I thought about becoming a Catholic priest. I sent out college applications, and I received letters. Sorry, you're not accepted. You can't come. You can't communicate. That's the problem. Were they really right? It is a problem, but I figured I would try. I want to go to college. I had to come up with an idea. So I kept sending out letters. I kept coming back, sorry, not accepted. I continuously received letters that saying, sorry, not accepted, can't attend. So I decided to try something different. I wrote another letter, filled out an application, but I kept it a secret that I was deaf. I mailed it out. We mailed letters back and forth. For about 3 or 4 months, we kept communicating with each other. They asked me more about my background, the name of my schools. I was stuck on one of the words. It's like, what do I do? Anyways, I wrote them a letter. So I wrote them a letter about when I was a boy. And I sent it out. I received a letter back. they weren't sure about accepting deaf people because it was hard to communicate. So then the last thing they said, write to the school's principal. So I wrote the school's principal about my communication skills and I sent it out. They called me, we discussed, there was many discussions, there was many groups. So they asked me to fly and meet them. So it was about in the 1970s. I didn't know anything. Anyways, I decided to fly there. I arrived, and one of the priests came to meet me. He said, "Come on, I'm going to drive, come join me." We chatted in the car. I got called into the office, and as I entered, I sat down. The man walked in, he shook my hand, welcomed me. He asked me a question and I had answered, but he said, "I thought you were deaf. How can you understand me?" I said, "Well, I could read lips. I have many years of experience." So he asked me how old I was, and I said, 21. So we discussed. He asked me, "How far north are you?" And I answered. He was surprised that I understood him. He said, "I thought the deaf can't communicate." He said, "The deaf can't talk. How are you communicating?" So I told him, "Well, I practice in reading lips." He asked me how old I was, and I responded with 21. He said, "That's impossible. Impossible." So he started laughing. He said that for a long time that they worried that I couldn't communicate, that I wasn't going to be accepted. We both were feeling a little awkward and feeling nervous. So for about an hour we chatted, we communicated, we talked. He told me about the group that I was going to be with. He was worried that I was going to have a hard time communicating with no interpreter. 1 month later, they sent me a letter saying that I was accepted. Now it was going to be a challenge. Before, life was easy. My environment around me, everybody signed. I could communicate with everybody. But now it's a different world. So I entered with the willingness to fight against this challenge. So in this school, I had the opportunity to communicate with oral. I had to be patient. One night, the first night, I met a group of boys. They welcomed me. One boy told me, "I don't understand you." I was so embarrassed. I kept feeling embarrassed. Before, school was easy. There was signing going on. I could communicate. But now there's a new challenge that I have to face. New environment. later on, one boy came to me. He wanted to practice the ABC and continue on. I had to continue facing this new challenge. So, one challenge I faced was that it was English. So for 5 years I practiced. Each year was something different that I learned. One year was learning about the Bible. One lecturer said it was important that it was to help me. One day we took a test and I had failed it. What do I have to do? Is it a problem that I don't understand the language? I was feeling kind of depressed. What do I do? I decided to continue with my education. So I studied for 2 weeks and I took the test again and I passed with a C. It's hard for me being deaf amidst the hearing people because I miss a lot of information. So after I graduated, I graduated and passed. I had taken a test. Many had passed, but I had failed. I had studied hard for that test. I had to try to figure out where my weaknesses were. One part I think was my reading skills. My parents' reading skills were okay. So I wanted to become a priest in North America. I felt proud and motivated. So I worked all around North America. I worked for 4 years traveling and lecturing. The last year I traveled around to Italy, the Philippines. I traveled all around the world. At one point I felt like giving up. Someone come to me and felt like giving up. I told him, don't give up. It's important that you keep going. "3 years will go by fast. You can do it." I moved to Hawaii. is a different culture here. I had no idea what the culture was like before. I was there for 3 years. The last year I was there, I had set up a summer day camp, a summer Catholic camp while I was there. I collected money, but I was broke. So for 3 months, different problems had showed up in this camp. I was told again, you're deaf, sorry, can't communicate. I explained that I was oral and that I can communicate that way. The problem was the attitude that was happening. I still went ahead with the program anyways. So I went into the hospital for hearing aids. They wanted to know about background medicine, all kinds of information. They said this was a challenge. I hope you have a license to be here. Hey, I told him, hey, I became a priest. If I wanted to, I could become a doctor as well.